Yeah, that was weird.
All right, are we back? Holy Toledo. That was quite the hassle. We got cut off there. I don't even know what happened. The camera and the microphone just cut out completely. It's kind of weird. We'll have to go back and watch that and see what happened. I don't know where we left off, so thank you, Nick, for the help.
Yes, sir.
I don't know where we left off, so I'll just, I guess, start from the top, roughly. Um, Long story short, I'm sure many people have heard the news recently, especially those in the traditional Catholic world, of Father David Pagliarani, the Superior General of the Society of St. Pius X, and his um, directive for the society to go on and consecrate more bishops coming on July 1st. Um, this is huge news. This is a very big deal, and it's easy to see why. And we'll go to the statement from the society. Here we have it. And this was released this morning for us Americans here. It was released early this morning. I think someone sent it to me, Mr. Smith, shout out, at about 3:30 or 4 in the morning. Um, so really early, obviously, wasn't that early for them because this was given at the Feast of the Purification of the Blessed Virgin, where they took the cassock, or the seminarians take the cassock. Anyways, long story short, just briefly goes into a brief history of Father Pagliarani's communications with Rome. Last August, he did try to meet with the Pope, with Pope Leo, and to discuss the needs of the society, the need for more bishops, what they do, the mission of the society, all of this kind of stuff. And then I don't actually know if he did get the audience. I wanted to say he did, but then he actually ended up writing letters as well. Um, and you see here, he wrote at least a few letters, and in the latter letter, he made it very clear the need for bishops for the Society of St. Pius X. Um, it seems as though Pope Leo and the Holy See did not respond, or at least did not address the need. And uh, so Father Pagliarani decided that we're not in a position that we can wait much longer. You see, back in 1988, four bishops were consecrated for the society by Archbishop Lefebvre. You had Bishop Fele, Bishop de Galaretta, Bishop Tessier, and Bishop Williamson. Now, Bishop Williamson had been kicked out of the society, and he recently passed away. Bishop Tessier also recently passed away. So now there's two bishops left for the society, and they both are also facing significant health issues. They're getting up there in their years, and the workload, so to speak, has only grown since 1988. The society has grown so much. The faithful have expanded in the United States and France tremendously, but all throughout the world they've expanded. And so you have these two elderly bishops traveling the world to do confirmations, and to ordain the priests for the society. And really, it's just too much for two good and faithful servants of the church, but it's too much for them to do on their own, and so they decided they need more bishops. Um, Now, who knows why? They say that back when Archbishop Lefebvre was in communications with Rome about consecrating bishops, that they were sort of waiting for him to die off so the whole issue would go away. Who knows? Maybe something like that is a situation here. They thought maybe they would just put it off long enough that Bishop Tessier, or Bishop de Galaretta or Bishop Fillet were to pass away, and then it'd be over and done with. Well, we evidently are not going to let that happen because coming on July 1st, presumably in Acon, Switzerland. I don't think they've announced anything, but presumably that's where it'd be. They will be consecrating more bishops. Now, how many bishops? I don't know. I'm sure that will be coming very soon. I think we have an idea of how many there will be. And that's going to raise a whole nother set of questions about that and how do we proceed and everything like that. But for the time being, all we know is that it will be on July 1st. Now, where did it say that? Let me see. Yep. Here we go. Father Davide Pagliarani announced his decision to entrust the bishop of the society with the task of proceeding episcopal consecrations on July 1st. So how do we respond as lay people? What do we do? Well, truthfully, there is nothing we can do. It's completely out of our hands, and quite frankly, that's a very good place to be for us, right? The less responsibility we have, the less obligation we have, the less we can be held. We can be held responsible if we were to maybe misjudge a situation. But I think that the best thing we could do is, one, detach ourselves from the decision. There's nothing you can do about it. Your approval or disapproval does not change it whatsoever. No matter how much you think they should consecrate 100 bishops or 0 bishops, it doesn't matter. What's going to be done is going to be done. And so detaching yourself emotionally from it can be a very beneficial thing. It can be a very fruitful practice, just in general with life, especially anytime your superiors or maybe your boss, your teacher, your parents tell you to do something, whatever, they make a decision on something. There's literally nothing you can do about it. You know, you have no authority, you have no role. So the detachment is very good. I also think exercising patience is going to be very, very beneficial. We tend to be very reactionary in this world, in the modern world. I know I'm very reactionary at times. I mean, Exhibit A. Look at this. I'm doing a YouTube reaction, more or less. We need to be careful with how we react to things and how emotionally we react to things. We're going to easily find ourselves on one extreme or the other of saying, oh, they're, we don't even know how many bishops are going to consecrate yet. They're either going to consecrate too many bishops or not enough bishops, or they're going to be in schism, or whatever. There's going to be some people who say they are the true church, and others who say they have left the true church. Let's just take a chill pill. Let's relax a little bit. Now, that being said, this is a very serious situation. This is a decision that does not come lightly. And, actions like this do need to be considered for the gravity of which they are, right? You are treading in the waters of potentially incurring excommunication. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think they are going to incur latae sententiae, excommunication, because of the necessity for bishops. Nonetheless, you do have to be careful, right? Like if you were to go out and consecrate 100 bishops, well, okay, guys, I don't know what's going on with the YouTubes at the moment. Seems like things are kind of going a little crazy. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So if we lose this again, we might just have to give up. And I apologize for that. Um, I guess what I was trying to say is that this is obviously a very big deal. We do have to be very cautious with how we proceed and how we react, because even if there is not a formally schismatic event action, there can be a schismatic attitude that develops in our own hearts when we start to separate ourselves. And um, that was really something I was going to talk about the other day, or even today, when I decided to start streaming before we got the news of the coming consecrations. I wanted to talk about how traditionalists can sometimes, though not formally being schismatic, they can have an attitude of schism, which is very dangerous. Needless to say, and with all that being said, we should really just be careful into not jumping to any conclusions. If you have a priest you trust, a priest that you, maybe your pastor, something, talk with them, talk with them about it, and get direction on how to proceed. Truthfully, the society is one of the last places that many people even find the Catholic faith anymore. And we really just want that faith to be preserved throughout all of time. And we would love it if we could just go to the local diocesan parish, right? That's the norm. That's what would be ideal. We should be going to the local diocesan parishes, but they've pushed us out. We didn't leave them. They pushed us out. When I went to a diocesan parish, and all I ever heard from one of the priests was sermons about social justice and how abortion's not really a sin, and gay marriage isn't really a sin, and doing drugs is not really a sin. It's like, well, how could I stay there? How could I stay there? If you care about the faith, how can you stay there? How can you raise kids there? Not safely, at least. You couldn't. Not safely. So then you have the Society of St. Pius X, who really all they want are good priests to preserve tradition. They want to create a place where they can welcome the lost sheep, right? Where they can reach out to the peripheries. Who really goes to the peripheries more than the society? I mean, come on. If you've ever been to a society mission chapel, it's always in the poorest places. It's always in the absolute slums of whatever city it's in. And so who really goes to the peripheries? Well, the Society of St. Pius X. And they go there and they preach the faith, they preach the gospel, they uphold traditional teachings of the church, they administer the sacraments, the priests make themselves available for confession. That's another thing. I mean, heck, when I would go to a Novus Ordo church, I mean, you would have to look around the entire diocese to find a priest hearing a confession on, say, I don't know, a Wednesday evening or something like that. A lot of times if you go to a diocesan church's website, you can't even find what the confession times are. And if you can, it's maybe 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour if you're lucky, once or twice a week. That's crazy. Now, I know we're very fortunate, very blessed to live in a very, very large SSPX chapel. But I mean, they have confessions probably in a couple hours a night. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning, Sunday during every mass they have confessions. I mean, heck, there's probably thousands and thousands of confessions heard every week at this chapel. And I know you can't say, I don't want to speak too broadly or paint with too broad a brush, but I know a lot of the Novus Ordo churches I've been to, maybe they hear 10 or 20 confessions a week, max. I don't know. I don't know. Certainly, there's some that do a lot more. When I was in college, there was a Novus Ordo church there that they definitely heard a lot of confessions. So again, I don't want to speak with too paint with too broad a brush. But all this to say, like the society, they really just want to preserve the faith. They want to give the faith to those who are seeking it. Why are they making it so difficult to do that? Why are they making it so difficult? I don't know. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it's Pope Leo. I don't know if it's the the hierarchy, the clergy. I don't know. I don't know. But it really feels like sometimes the against the faith.
Hey, Sam.
Yes, Nick.
Do you think something like this will push more people to the fraternity?
That's a good point, and that's something else we have to think about. Like this is a very big deal, um, and I'm sure some people will be pushed to the fraternity, to the Institute of Christ the King, to the what is it? The Institute of Christ the Good Shepherd, I believe, is another one. And there's going to be some people who end up going more so to find their reverent Novus Ordos, but I think at the end of the day, that's going to be a very small group of people, relatively speaking, because I think having the additional bishops, which will be consecrated, is going to facilitate a even greater growth for tradition.
I also want to point out something important. I think. I mean, ultimately, I was talking to Sam about this earlier. That I think this has the potential to affect relations with Rome and relations with the church, to set them back around 40 years. But I think one thing that people have to understand is the SSPX has grown since the consecrations in the 1980s. It has continued to grow. It's become a worldwide body that promulgates the traditional faith for a very long time. And for a while, especially since it kind of began with Benedict XVI in pulling back the supposed excommunication of Archbishop Lefebvre. It kind of started with that. But before that, I mean, we're essentially going to be in the same situation that they were between the consecrations and Benedict XVI doing that. And then also Pope Francis giving jurisdiction for the sacraments, things like that. So we're going to be in a similar situation that the SSPX has been in for a long time, and it's continued to grow for a long time, for the same amount of time. So I don't think it'll affect the growth of the SSPX by any means. Maybe it could potentially slow its growth. And I shouldn't even say growth of the SSPX. I should just say growth of the formation of priests and faithful seeking seeking tradition, because it's not really about the SSPX. It's about, as Father Pagliarani said, it's more about the promulgation of the universal church and its true faith. So I just wouldn't be too worried about it. Did we lose live? What happened?
I ended that one.
How long was I talking before it ended?
No, apparently we had two streams going. I don't know why. Okay. That was weird. We were having technologically difficulties, right? But no, you're good. No, I think you're right. Like this, in some ways, this does put us back to 1988. In some ways, it does push us back 40 years. In other ways, it's going to, provide an avenue for even greater growth of the traditional faith, right? The amount of good that additional bishops will do is like crazy. It's so much. Like only having two bishops has constricted the growth of the faith in a way. So having two more, three more, I don't know how many more. I don't know. It's not only necessary, but it actually will give another great avenue for the continued growth. And I believe it's God's will, personally. We do have to be careful and how we proceed, right? Not we being like me, I have no say over it, but if you end up seeing, I don't know. I'm just like 20 bishops consecrated. Well, that's kind of maybe a little bit excessive. If you're operating under the argument that there's a true need, if somebody were to throw out 20 bishops, well, you know, that's, now you're just doing it because it's convenient, maybe. I don't know, maybe. But maybe if there's 5, maybe 10 bishops. Okay, well now there's a stronger argument of like we're trying to fill the need, and especially here's something a lot of people aren't going to consider. Um, just a few years ago, I mean, it feels like only a few years ago, 6 years ago or 7 years ago, something like that. COVID 19. There's some serious restrictions, and the two bishops that were the bishops of the society, like they couldn't go a lot of places. They couldn't do a lot because of the government restrictions. And so, well, maybe there's an argument for needing some bishops in different parts of the world so that if there ever were to be restrictions on travel or something like that, the faithful still have access to traditional sacraments. Um, I don't know. I think that's something really to consider. What do you think? So I don't know. I'm anxious to hear what comes next down the pipeline. I'm anxious to hear from Kennedy Hall, who I have great respect for, seeing what he has to say, and the likes of Dr. Marshall, who and some of the other people that are heavily involved in, and just seeing different perspectives. I think as long as we're not acting rashly, positively or negatively, I think we'll find ourselves being guided where God intends us to go. So for me, I'm excited. I'm optimistic. I'm also going to be a little bit cautious until we get more information. I'm going to be a little bit patient to see what comes down the pipeline next from the society. I would like to hear some of y'all's opinions. Anybody who watches this video, I'd like to hear what y'all think, what y'all have to say, and what y'all's opinions and perspectives are on this. Are you excited? I know for me, I'm planning on attending if possible, if they'll let us go. I plan on being in a cone for the consecrations. Will I see any of you there? God willing. All right, guys. Well, with that, I will end the stream, but I do look forward to hearing from y'all. And if I hear anything, I will try to hop on here again sometime later this week and fill in some details. Thanks. God bless.